in terms of such large infrastructure that neither government nor the mining industry would have been able to put it in place on their own.
What makes this project interesting is that you've got two different sectors. You've got mining, which has its own legislative issues, and then you've got infrastructure from a water perspective, which has different legislative issues.
Water has quietly become one of South Africa's most acute infrastructure constraints, affecting communities, municipalities, and mining regions alike. As climate pressure, aging systems, and delivery failures converge, the question is no longer whether partnerships are needed, but whether they can be made to work at scale. Today, we explore water infrastructure partnerships, and we'll have that conversation with Mzila Mthenjane and Bertus Bierman. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Bertus, I want to start off with you, because when we talk about the Badirammogo Water User Association, from your vantage point, as you look back at the work done behind the scenes, the consultations, what do you believe is that one thing that convinced the partners that this was worth the long-term investment?
It's important to understand that in terms of such large infrastructure that neither government nor the mining industry would have been able to put it in place on their own. And therefore, I think the partnership brought so much to the party for each one to make sure that they get the best and the cheapest and the most sustainable infrastructure that one can provide in this environment. I think that is why both government and the mining industry were extremely positive in setting up this unique collaborative partnership.
Mzila, I'm sure when you think about this and you had to look back, what would you say is the one thing that you took away as you looked at how the mining sector was able to engage so deeply in something that affects just beyond their sector?
So the word sustainability, I think you used that in your introduction, is absolutely key to that. But also recognizing that sustainability is closely aligned to long-term, and both of those expressions apply equally to mining. And with the amount of commitment from the mining industry and the long-term outlook for mining in that region, and given the fact that water was becoming a significant constraint to being able to mine over the long term on a sustainable basis, I think the viability of mining was at threat. And recognizing as well from what Bertus has said that, the amount of capital that was required for that infrastructure was going to be significant. And I think typically, water infrastructure, especially of a bulk nature, is something that is usually the responsibility of government. It was a challenge in terms of how could the mine play a role and participate in enabling the construction of this water infrastructure. And so when government was willing to partner, it then became easy that actually this is infrastructure that the mine needs, that the community needs. And so the one way, and we had mines that were going to operate for a longer period. And so it became then an operating cost. And this is how the project then was able to provide for access to water for the mine, and it then converted from being a project of a capital nature to the mine to one where it would be an operating cost for the mine.
Let me stay with you for my next one, because over the past couple of days here at the Mining Indaba, we've been talking extensively about partnerships and collaboration. And if we were to look at this partnership between the Badirammogo Water User Association, government and mining, is this partnership something that could be adopted across the region, across different parts of the continent, given that there's so many delegates, so many CEOs here who also want to learn from how we're doing things?
I think the theme of the Mining Indaba is absolutely appropriate as a reference. Stronger together, progress through partnership. And the Badirammogo Water User Association actually demonstrates exactly that. The progress that we've been able to make as a result of this partnership. And as we sit today, we have one other project in the Northern Cape province in South Africa, which is looking at a similar partnership between government and the private sector in terms of mining for a water infrastructure that was built probably 50, 60 years ago and is now in a state where it actually needs refurbishment. The plugging when you have a water burst, I think we're beyond that. It is making for very inefficient operation of mines, and it actually proving to be much costlier. And so we are looking at a similar relationship between, at a national level, Department of Water and Sanitation, but also with the involvement of both local and district municipality. So it has provided for a learning opportunity which can be duplicated in other regions within the country, but also in other regions within the continent as we're seeing mining developing.
Bertus, I want to bring you into the conversation. What are some of those learnings, especially if we have those who want to adopt what we've done and perhaps even think about rolling it out or letting it have a touch point with different sectors? What would you say are some of the learnings so that we can manage the risk?
I think one need to understand that this was a first of its kind. So yes, it took longer to drive and to start to get to the point where we are today. But I think duplication is absolutely possible. Mm-hmm. One need to understand that, especially if it's not water in South Africa, but let's say transport, energy, any of these, or projects in other parts of Africa, that one need to understand the legislative environment you operate in and also the political one. That is extremely important. So alignment of your partners is quite a tedious exercise that you need to handle with care, and you need to take the time to get them aligned. And through that alignment, I think what is extremely important is, as you align, you put it in writing, you set your agreements, your policies, your procedures, your all that things that later can come back and say, but I didn't mean this, I meant something else, or even for transparency. Everybody can see what you've developed, and it is open for criticism, and there will always be criticism. So, but it is a process you need to go through, and you need to understand, especially in the beginning, around your scope. Yeah. If you fix your scope very early, it makes the rest of the negotiation far easier.
Yeah. So if I can add to that around the legislative environment, I think what makes this project interesting is that you've got two different sectors. You've got mining, which has its own legislative issues, and then you've got infrastructure from a water perspective, which has different legislative issues. And I think whilst Bertus may have been speaking to the latter from a water legislation, from a mining perspective, I think as a lobbying and advocacy body, we constantly working towards enabling legislation, policy certainty. And this is a project that had probably, 5 or 6, if not more, mining companies and mining operations, with operations at different remaining life of mines, which means there will be other mines that participate that need to apply for prospecting or mining rights. So policy certainty, which then gives rise to that commitment to the long term, to mining, which then means that it's able to provide support, from a financial perspective to this legislation, is absolutely critical. And so I think both pieces of legislation need for that policy certainty and an enabling legislative environment, which is absolutely critical. And then when it comes to the politics, you can't avoid it. And don't get into multi-billion rand projects thinking it's going to be smooth sailing. It is an environment of significant influence towards one another, making sure that what you want from the project you will get. And so it does require a lot of negotiation. And so you shouldn't go in there thinking that it won't be politics. And in fact, you need to be very, very clear to the fact that it's actually going to be the outcome of those political relationships that will make the project succeed.
We've had government representatives, senior leaders in government talk to us about the fact that they can't do it on their own. We need to be able to collaborate. What role do you see the mining industry playing if we're to think beyond water when we look at other infrastructure challenges? Because they are infrastructure challenges. Where do you see that role in your engagement with some of the companies?
This is actually one of the most exciting prospects for me, for mining in the country and the continent. And as a result, we've come up in partnership with another body called AFIDA, if I can mention them, that we call Mining Enabled Infrastructure. And what that means is that recognizing that mining typically takes place in remote areas where there is no infrastructure. So mining is quite pioneering in that way. It means that with the economic success of mining and the benefits that it will be able to provide to government, to communities, but from a government perspective, tax revenue, therein is the beginning of that opportunity for mining enabling infrastructure, because income that government would otherwise not have had is now available for government to leverage through bonds and other capital raising instruments, which it can then use to invest in that infrastructure. So where you started off with a mine, you're now able to invest in other infrastructure. And depending on the nature of that infrastructure, at times it may be the mine directly investing it, such as energy, for instance, but then in the way that it invests in that energy, it's also able to make it available to communities and the rest of that region. So mining is going to play a very important role in terms of enabling several other infrastructure.
And maybe if I can add to that, if you look at Badirammogo, its previous name was Mzila Water User Association, was established in 2002. And that was the first pipeline that was installed in the eastern limb of the Bushveld Ignis complex. There would not have been any mines there if it wasn't for that infrastructure, very specifically, that started it. Yes, it took a long time and a lot of politics going through the years and issues, but at this stage, that was where this project was born, because of that, not only the need for the mine, but the need for the communities around the mines. The social unrest that we saw, because there wasn't water for the communities, but there was water for the mines. And that made us realize, but we need to look differently at this. And that is why we actually started this program to say it is a 50-50 partnership whereby both parties take responsibility, not only for the bulk water, but down to the community, to a yard connection. And both of them are equally responsible up to that point, which changed the thing. And I think saying that our vision of improving lives through water actually changed the minds of not only the mining industry, but also government and the communities around the mines. And we can definitely see that there's a understanding from all parties that this is the way to go.
I'll stay with you on what you just said now. Were there skeptics, those who didn't believe that this could be what it is? Are there still skeptics right now, or do you have believers, so to speak?
There will always be skeptics. That is the game. Even believers today can be skeptics tomorrow. But I think the way we deal with it by being very transparent, very open, and where they are skeptic, you go and sit with them. Because I think a lot of times people are skeptic because they don't know the real impact, not only on themselves or on the communities or even on the economy of South Africa. If you think what it will help the economy of South Africa if we do this project or this whole program, not only for the mining industry, but for people that have water and communities that start to really operate as communities and start to grow in this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that their basic needs start to be addressed, and therefore they have time to think about other things that they can also really be part of the economy, where they are excluded at this stage.
I think skepticism is the nature of projects of the size, of the scale, but it is also the nature of anything new that comes up. And the bigger it is, the bigger the skepticism. And as a result, you do need to have people who will champion that vision and that cause for the project. And I think the CEO and the team of what was Lebalelo, now Badirammogo, played a very important role in ensuring that they're able to engage, understand where the skepticism comes from, and be able to shift the mindset of those individuals who then become champions. But, it's something that you need to do consistently throughout a project of this nature until the first drop of water comes out, and then people will believe. And so, it is a very important skill of any project manager to be able to manage, the various stakeholders internally and externally, from the top all the way to the bottom, the whole breadth and length. And it's a skill that I think we're going to need amongst many people as we look at more mines developing, more mines enabling projects, as we get energy projects, road projects, and so forth.
When it comes to partnership-led infrastructure models, if you and we all had to sit around this table next year, what do you want to see that would put a smile on your face as the Minerals Council?
I would want to see more of these types of partnerships, because I think we've learned certainly from Operation Vulindlela 2.0 in terms of the nature of partnerships that are required, but the impact that they can have on systemic challenges, such as electricity security and supply, and now we're addressing the issue of cost. I think also accepting that it is not a perfect setting in any partnership. You can go from the most simple of partnerships of a marriage, and I'm using the word simple very carefully here, to the complexity of having multiple parties who come from totally different perspective are aiming to achieve one thing. It's not going to be easy. But I think to the extent that you're able to remain focused on the vision, and you're able to gain the trust and the confidence of skeptics, but also promoters who work together. That's important. And I think the other issue is that there's so many huge opportunities ahead of us, and we will be skeptical just beginning to think about them. We will be anxious about them in terms of whether we'll be able to achieve them. But I think with the experience that we've learned from the successes that we've had, that should provide us with enough inspiration to say, with the right people around, with the right partnerships, we should be able to achieve them.
Bertus, as we wrap up this conversation, again, if you and I had to sit across from each other a year from now, what should people know about the Badirammogo Water Users Association in terms of what's next?
There's quite a few things that can be next.
Yeah.
One need to go through a new strategy to understand where we're going now. We've concentrated so hard in pulling off this one, because without this one, there would not be any others.
Yes.
This is the proof of concept. And once the first yellow machine is on the site, digging holes and digging pipelines, putting pipelines in, I think the whole atmosphere around this type of partnership is will start to just take off. We can see it already does. And therefore, from our side, I think it's important to engage, whether it's Badirammogo or any other group that have the ability to do what we've done here. But I think Badirammogo will play a huge role in many of these possible new projects. There's a few we're talking about already that one can't at this moment say anything about. But I think one important thing here is that the mining industry is so crucial to the development of infrastructure as part of, first of all, where they operate. It's absolutely important that they play this anchor role in that area. Yes, it is costing everybody money, especially them and government. But you can easily say, sorry, that it is government's responsibility. It is not. It is South Africa's responsibility. And for us as a nation to start to grow and really get us into a different growth rate, this is the type of things that we need to start, and the rest will come. So I hope from my side that there will be quite a few projects in different sectors, not only in water, but with the support of the mining industry. And as we go further, other industries will come in. And I think business per se need to do their part to do this development.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. For more mining insights, you can go to miningindaba.com.